I've been getting some questions about what to do about a sunburn in the scalp. Not pleasant. Okay. Not a pleasant thing to deal with for sure. Same tips that I give for sunburn anywhere else. Keep the skin protected from any additional sun exposure. That means wearing a hat in this case. There is sunscreen for the scalp, but when you have a sunburn, it's just a good idea to just completely, keep it covered out of the sun. Skin cancers in the scalp are really common. I mean, ask a hairdresser. They actually help identify a lot of them. And, if it's really painful and you're able to take non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs like ibuprofen or naproxen, aspirin, that can help with just discomfort. Cool compresses, a little ice pack wrapped up in a cloth, that can help. But stay away from those after sun gels that have anesthetics in them. And by anesthetics, I mean ingredients that end in cane. Typically, it's benzocaine. The reason is people can easily become allergic to that. It's actually a common issue people run into. They start using those after sun products on burns and they develop problems with the benzocaine. Plus, it's irritating. And you can get a similar analgesic effect just by doing a cool compress. So I suggest that. I wouldn't use any products in the scalp like dry shampoos, because as the name implies, they're pretty drying. They can be irritating regardless of a sunburn, but yeah, I would definitely avoid those. I'm over here by the med center. Extended stay America. When I was in med school, I did a rotation at the University of Miami, and I stayed at an extended stay. Those of you who live in Miami, it's the extended stay in Coral Gables. It's right next to an excellent Cuban restaurant. It was like within walking distance. Highly recommend. I mean, Miami has a ton of great Cuban restaurants, but this one was really good. Anyways, and they're actually, at least the one that I stayed in, they're actually a really nice setup if you have to be somewhere for, a long stretch. I'm sure they have Airbnbs and stuff now in abundance in Miami, but yeah, I stayed in an extended...
Turn right onto Windale Street, then turn right onto Staffordshire Street.
Kroger's got all the summer swag out and about. Check out these jugs. Just eyeing these. Hydration. You can put that in the freezer to keep the drink cold. Handy. Let's chill. Freezer stick inside. Might have to get one of those. Squishy. I wanted to check out the candles. I didn't end up getting that candle yesterday at Home Goods because I didn't want to wait in line. Home Goods line, it is long. Anything is popsicle. Candlelight is on sale. Ooh, that smells like chewing gum. Not like a popsicle. How's summer loving? Happened so fast. Not too bad. I kind of like that. Although it has a diapery aroma. This one's cute. Flamazing Summer. Flamazing Summer kind of gives me casino hotel vibes. They don't have any. Well, they've got papaya mango. That's a new Tuscany scent. Oh, Seaside Spa. Excuse me, sugared strawberry. I need to take a whiff of that. It's pretty good. It actually smells like real strawberry. It doesn't smell like strawberry flavoring. Did they rebrand lemon sugar cookie into lemon vanilla? That's boring. I wonder how these totes shoes are. They're kind of cute. What do you guys think? They're machine washable. They look like they would be good for like washing the car and stuff. Well, hey guys, I just finished up a run and I wanted to share with you guys, if you remember, it was like well over a year ago, I switched from Asics, which I had run in for years, to Brooks. And I wanted to update you guys because I have continued to wear Brooks and love them. I just took them off, so they're kind of sweaty looking, but they're like this pretty pink color. Yeah, I never take these like actually outside of this little arena because I just use them for the treadmill. That way I don't track dust onto the treadmill. And this is an older pair, so I'll use these. I like to alternate them actually. I like to alternate one day wear one pair and the next day wear the other. I just think it helps them last a little bit longer. The sweat can have time to dry and air out and everything. But some of you were asking about my treadmill. Highly recommend this. I got this at the start of lockdown when my gym closed in my apartment building. I got it on Amazon and I am so surprised. That was 2020, like going on 2 years now, and I use it pretty much every day. I also have a rebounder that I wish I had more room for because I really enjoy using that. I have to like pull it out and put the legs on, and I love doing it. I just don't like having it take up that much space. So I do still use it, but maybe a couple of times a month. It's this brand Xterra. I'll see if it's still on Amazon and I'll link it down below, but ignore the dust. I need to wipe it off. And now if you want to do like intense drills and stuff, this is not gonna accomplish that, but it's perfect for running. It doesn't do much of an incline. But yeah, I mean, it's really sturdy. I don't use these things. I've never used those. Side note, one of my pet peeves is if I see somebody like in a gym or something running or walking on a treadmill, putting their hands here while they do it, you know what I mean? Oh, it drives me crazy because it's so... Yeah, let me move around. It drives me crazy because it's so bad for your knees to do that. And it's like usually somebody who's trying to get into running for the first time, and it's like, oh gosh, just slow down the speed a little bit so that you can take your hands off. Yeah, that is terrible. Like, comment below if that makes you nervous and cringe, because I just know that they're gonna hurt themselves doing that. Like, it's horrible for your knees and your hips to do that. Likewise, I see people, the other thing, I see people in the gym going around barefoot. That is no bueno. I think people like doing that for, I don't know. First of all, it's dangerous if you're in the weight section to be walking around barefoot. I mean, if a weight drops on your foot, that is no bueno on your barefoot. And the other reason is tinea pedis, foot fungus, athlete's foot. So yeah, I just put my ignore the fingerprints, my iPad up there, and I like listen to YouTube and stuff like that. When I lived in Colorado, I used to run a lot outside because the weather there is wonderful, even when it's cold. Because the thing people don't realize about Denver, Colorado in general, is that it's really sunny the majority of the year. So even in the winter when it like snows a bunch and stuff, it typically snows and then like melts pretty quickly and the sun is out. I used to run a lot outside there, and I used to run around this wash park. I loved that place. I have fond memories running there, and then all along the Cherry Creek Trail, I always enjoyed that too. So I started running in 1999, 2000. That's when I first got into running. And I had never like run before. I had always done like ballet or ride my bike. I'd never done like running. And I used to go to a gym and run on the treadmill. And starting out, I would like lightly jog, I guess. And I remember at the time that seemed like an intense workout for me. And now I can run much, much faster. So if you want to get into running, I think it's a good idea to just start on the treadmill, honestly, because it's easier to pace yourself. It's easier to work up, and there are fewer irregularities. You have a smoother surface. It's easier on the joints. I honestly think that's the best, but I am not a physiatrist. But that's how I got into running, was around in 1999 when I first started running. And it wasn't until probably 2000 and it probably wasn't until like 2005, 2006 that I actually ran my first race. I ran a 10K, which is actually a long race for your first race. I think that was the first time I ran a race. I got into running races. See, up until that point, I remember, even though I just told you guys, I think it's a good idea to get started running on a treadmill, because that's how I started. I had a phobia for a while of running outside because this was in Colorado. The air in Colorado is like really dry. I breathe through my nose. But in Colorado, because it's so dry, sometimes it can be really hard to breathe through your nose. You kind of have to mouth breathe a little bit, because at least for me, my nose would get so dry that it felt like I couldn't take air in. Eventually I got used to it, but I guarantee if I went back to Colorado right now, after living in Houston for all these years now at super, super sea level, I guarantee I would have a hard time running at the pace that I'm used to running here. I would have a hard time with the dry air for sure, and it's at altitude, and it does take some getting used to running at altitude. Even in Denver, it's a mile high. It doesn't sound like that much, but it does make a difference. I guarantee I would be probably a little winded, to say the least. Yeah, what was I saying? Oh, yeah, I was really nervous in the beginning about running outside because of that, and I just, it was kind of in my comfort zone with running indoors, and I liked that it was climate controlled. But man, I think it was something like either the gym I was going to, their treadmills were always out of commission, you know how that is, or something happened. There was a stretch where I was like forced to run outside, and then I just got really into it and came to love it. I think the other reason why I don't, to this day, I don't run outside as much as I would like to, and why I was not into it in the beginning, is because I typically run at night, and I don't want to run outside at night alone. But see, in Denver, I think I would run around, 5 o'clock, and so that was still daylight out. Whereas now I run closer to like 7 or 8 or so, sometimes later than that. But yeah, I definitely think, all that to say, if you want to get into running, I think a treadmill is a good way to get into it, because the other thing about treadmills is that you can do intervals out and about. Who am I fooling? But it's just easier to like pace yourself if you want to try running if you want to try running like, 10 minutes and then walk a few minutes. It's kind of easier to do that. The other thing though that I think would be good if you want to get into running, because who asked me, right? The other thing I think would be good if you wanted to get into running would be if you could find like a high school that had a track, or if you have like a college in your town that has a track. I think that's a good way to start too. But running outside, if you've never done it before, I think it takes a little bit more getting used to, especially if you don't have somewhere that's like a reliable loop or something. That was the other thing that's the other thing about running outside. I don't like running outside if I don't know, like there are some people who just like run outside and they're like, whatever, I'll just go wherever and blah, blah, blah. I don't like that. I like knowing Like, is it a loop? Is it some kind of a, you know, we're gonna go here and there, what's the distance? I don't like running out into the unknown. So that was another reason why I was always not so into running outside. But all that to say, I do really enjoy running outside a lot. Especially, I really came to love running outside in Colorado. Like, that was my preferred thing because it's so beautiful there. And so what I was telling you guys, the first race I ever ran was actually, I think it was a 10K. It was in the Garden of the Gods, which if you've never been there, if you're gonna visit Denver, I feel like it's a pretty short trip to the Garden of the Gods from Denver. It's a really neat like outdoor park with all of these like stone statues and stuff. I lived there for many years. The only time I ever went to Garden of the Gods was for that race. So, but it is a neat attraction. So I ran that, but then I ran many other races beyond that. I did like a lot of 10Ks, half marathons. Denver has a Colfax marathon, which I don't recommend running because it's really a boring race. If you live in Denver, comment below if you've ever ran the Colfax marathon or half marathon, half marathon, I can't remember. But it was one of the most boring races I've ever ran because you just run up Colfax, which I just got done telling you how beautiful Colorado is. Colfax, it's just like a big like cement street with a bunch of, you know, businesses like tattoo parlors on either side or whatever for a part of it. And so it wasn't a very enjoyable, I mean, it was enjoyable, but it wasn't like, it was not the best race. And I remember too, like there wasn't much in the way of a crowd either. So you're just like running on like the road. Yeah, it was not a good race. But then I ran a half marathon at altitude. That was probably one of the most grueling races. That far and away was a lot harder than any marathon I've ever run because that one, it was like up in the mountains, and running up, I remember not physically being able, I was like running but at a walking pace because the altitude was so intense, and the people all around me were like, it was like a trail run up and it was intense. I can't remember what that was called. Breck Crest, it was in Breckenridge, the Breck Crest half marathon. That was actually really grueling. That was probably the hardest race I ever ran because it just felt like running up a mountain. It sounds like not that big a deal, but trust me, it was rough. But the best part about it is half of the half marathon you're running up, and then the other half, the latter half, you run down, and that's easy breezy. And you're like, that kind of runner's high kicks in, and you're like, woo, sailing down the mountain. But yeah, that one was grueling. And they also have that, I did the half marathon for that, but they also have that one where it's like a full marathon. I can't imagine. I mean, they have some intense runners in Colorado. They have some intense like outdoor athletes, people who do marathon, what are they called? Triathlons. See, triathlons, I always would, like to get into, but there's too much additional stuff I would have to do to prepare for that. You guys know I'm not very good at swimming at all, and I don't enjoy bikes. I do, but that's something I would have to get more into. Like, I don't like the seat, and yeah, I would have to get more into riding bike. But I think if I got into it, I would get really into it. Like, I got into spinning for a while, those spinning classes. Like, I was really into, what's the one that's like a spiritual Soul Cycle. I really enjoyed that. And then when I was living in New York, they had this one spin class where it was like they had like this leaderboard where you could race against the people in the class. That was a lot of fun. But yeah, speaking of riding a bike, I've heard good things about this bike called the Zwift Bike, but I think that's more for people who are like really serious about cycling. But I always kind of think that something like that would be fun. I know a lot of people like the Peloton, although apparently Peloton, their stock is like going down. Like, they were so popular during the pandemic, but they're like dying in popularity, which I don't understand why. I think that that concept of an at-home studio class, it seems like, I don't know, that seems like something that most people would want to stick with. I guess maybe the classes are just, see, I would think it's just not the same vibe as being in the class with the other people hyping you up. I don't know. I do the Obey workouts though, and I feel like I'm getting hyped up for those. I know a lot of people also were not happy with the Peloton treadmill, but I feel like some of my viewers, you know, I think I've asked you guys about it before, and some people commented, I remember reading your comments, that you had gotten one and you like absolutely loved it. So I think, you know, I think people were like, I'm gonna get into working out kind of thing, maybe around the pandemic, which is great, but maybe they lost motivation with the Peloton. Anyways, I am going to get in the shower. I'll check in with you guys later. Well, I am out of the shower, obviously, and where we left off, I was chatting with you guys about like my history of running, but when I was growing up, I just like rode my bike and stuff, and I honestly didn't get into ballet until junior high. Like, I didn't do ballet when I was like a elementary school age. I didn't get into ballet actually until like maybe 9th grade, I think, was when I took my very first ballet class, and then I just rather enjoyed that. But prior to that, I didn't do any like sports or anything. I just played outside and like, I don't know, jumped rope, kid stuff. I did climb trees. Funny story, I used to climb this tree, and my next door neighbor, we get like really nervous. She was worried I was gonna fall out. And I was like, oh, it's fine, I won't fall out. It was a pretty tall tree. I used to climb to the top of this tree, and I would go up there and like read a book. It was a lot of fun. I don't know, it was enjoyable to be up in a tree. And it was like a little escape. And I remember I was coming down the tree one day, and I stepped on a branch that broke, and I did in fact fall out of this tree. And I was so worried that she was watching me, because she would watch like out of her window sometimes, and she'd be like, you know, she'd come out and be like, be careful up in that tree. And I fell out. And long story short, I was okay, but I did sustain a small hairline fracture to my collarbone, which did not require any like intervention other than, you're okay. You know, I think I went to my doctor's office and had an x-ray or whatever, and they're like, should heal up, be careful with those trees. Yeah, I loved climbing trees as a child. It was like probably one of the happiest memories I have. I mean, I have many happy memories. I am very, very lucky that I had a happy childhood, because you know what? Not everybody gets that opportunity. And I mean, if you are lucky enough to have a happy childhood, it makes a difference in your life. It really does. It really can make a huge difference, I believe, in your trajectory in life. Unhappy childhood, that's a lot of adversity to have to overcome. I mean, we all have struggles, but having a happy childhood, don't take it for granted. If you had a happy childhood, call up your parents and say thank you, or a caregiver, whoever raised you. Anyways, guys, I'm gonna wrap this vlog up here. Aside from the serious talk, I hope you guys are having a great weekend. Thank you so much for coming along with me today. I know I rambled a lot. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and as always, don't forget, sunscreen and subscribe. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye.